Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Amanda, and as you can tell by the title, this is my February wrap-up. So I had a pretty decent reading month in the month of February, especially since it's so short. It's only 28 days, and I managed to read 10 books. So I'm really excited to talk to you about some of them. Others of them weren't so great, but let's just dive in. So the first thing that I read in the month of February was A Winter's Promise. This is by Christelle Dabos. This is the first book in a quartet, I think, and I gave this one 3 stars. So it wasn't a bad book. It just wasn't what I expected it to be. I think I am gonna pick up the next book in the series, but it's not on the top of my priority list just because I want to see what happens. So this is about a girl named Ophelia who lives on this arc. So in this world there are different arcs, which essentially are like continents. It's like the world ended and now there's like these different arcs. And on her arc, people have the ability, different abilities. Actually, on each of the arcs, people have different abilities. So her arc, people have the ability to like travel through mirrors, which she can do. They also have the ability to be able to like touch objects and read them. So like her specific ability is to like touch objects and read the memories on them. So she is kind of this clumsy, like is only interested in like her work, not really looking for love, anything like that. And her family wants to marry her off, but she's gotten out of every proposal that they've brought to her until the most recent one. So the like higher ups in her on her arc, like the king and queen or whatever they are, they have made a pact with another arc from the, I think the North Pole or something like that, for her to marry this guy. And for the life of me, I can't remember his name right now. But he shows up to pick her up to take her back to his arc, and he's very cold and standoffish, and then when she gets there, things are not like what they seem, and she gets into a lot of hijinks there. A lot of things happen. The writing style was a little strange for me, but it is a translated work, so that may just be the reason. And the world wasn't like vastly explored, and I think I would want more of that, like more world building maybe. So overall it was a 3-star read. After that I picked up Frostfire by Jamie Smith. This is another book I read for Polarathon. This is a middle grade fantasy adventure story. It follows a girl named Ash, I think, who has to travel to the top of a mountain to kind of be bonded with the mountain. Like the mountain is sentient and she needs to be bonded with it, but when she's on her way there, something tragic happens. She kind of gets stuck there and she has to like fight her way out of it. It's a very quick, fast-paced read. I read it in a day and I gave that one a 3 out of 5 stars. It was okay. It just wasn't, you know, since it was so short and middle grade, there wasn't a lot of like development there. There wasn't any world building, no major like character development. So it was an okay read, but overall I just gave it a 3. After that I picked up The Hazelwood. This is by Melissa Albert. I also picked this up for Polarathon, and it was one of my prompts for my February TBR pursuit, for the prompt of read a book with a foiled cover. This one I also gave 3 stars. It was a bit disappointing, I will say. I expected more out of it. There is a companion novel and or a sequel, I'm not sure, and I will not be picking it up. I'm actually going to unhaul this. So this follows a girl named Alice, I believe, whose grandmother is like this, she's kind of like a recluse. She writes these fairy tales, and her mother don't have a relationship with her grandmother. Her grandmother dies, and basically she doesn't believe that her grandmother died, and like her mom gets kidnapped and she has to like figure out what happened. She has to like travel to this imaginary place, and it just like probably the last 100 pages or so were interesting because we were in this like fairy tale land, but getting up to that point it just wasn't great. Alice was really just frustrating to me, and like while that was her attitude and the way she handled things was explained, I still didn't buy it. Like it just didn't work for me. The book is gorgeous. I wanted to love it. Unfortunately I didn't. So the next book I picked up was East by Edith Patel. This is another book that I picked up for Polarathon, and I gave this one 2 stars. I just did not jive with this book. The writing style I did not like it. The story itself is like based on another like I don't know who made the story, like where the story comes from, but it's like a retelling of a certain like folklore. And while I had no prior knowledge of this particular story, I felt like the book was long. I think it was like 500 pages or something. Mind you, it's a middle grade fantasy, 500 pages, and it could have been like split in half. And then I found out after I finished it that there's a second book which is also 500 pages. And I'm like, no, I've had enough, like it's fine. So this follows a girl named Rose who lives on the farm with her family, and then one day this polar bear shows up and says, Rose, if you come with me, I'll give your family all of the wealth that they will ever need in their lifetime, and I'll also heal your sick sister. You just have to come with me, and you have to come with me in the next 24 hours. So Rose goes with the bear. She thinks she's gonna go on this epic adventure. She like is an adventurer at heart, but her mom doesn't let her adventure because she's very superstitious. So she goes along with the bear, and then things kind of go from there. I just, like, it's told from multiple point of views, which I didn't think was necessary. It was very weird. I understand what the author was trying to do, but it just didn't work. And the fact that it was so long, like the last half of the book I skimmed. Like I skim read and I still feel like I didn't miss anything. Like it could have definitely been shortened. And just to find out that the story continues, I just don't care. Like it didn't work for me, unfortunately. Like I really wanted to like it. I know this is one of like Jade's favorite books, but I didn't like it. After that, I picked up Yellow Wife by Siddiqua Johnson. I read this for new to you author from TBR Pursuit. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars, but let me tell you, it was just under a 5-star read. This book, wow, where do I even begin? It was so it was so good, so well written, brutal, absolutely brutal book. Trigger warnings for violence, for forced miscarriage, for sexual assault. It was brutal. This follows a young slave named Phoebe who is the product of the master sleeping with one of his slaves. So she is biracial, and she's very pretty, and so she works in the big house. Like that's her job. Her master has promised her that when she turns 18, she will gain her freedom, and before she can turn 18, her circumstances change. She's sent off to this notorious slave prison called the Devil's Half Acre, and you know, the story just kind of continues from there. If you think you can handle this, like if you're in the mindset and you think you can handle it, then I would recommend it, but I would look into some triggers. Make sure you're in a good headspace, because this is going to be a rough one to get through. There were times when I was reading it myself when I had to put it down and walk away. It's really heavy, but it's so well written. I think this is her first historical fiction. I think the other things that this author writes are contemporary fiction, but I definitely want to pick it up because I loved the writing so much. She did get her inspiration from real events and real people throughout history, which was really cool to hear about at the end. Like the Devil's Half Acre is really a place that existed in Virginia in the 1800s. The people that are portrayed in here were really people in the like really slaves, really slave owners, like the whole nine. So I can't say enough about this book. Like very good. After that, I picked up Girls of Storm and Shadow. This is by Natasha Gon. This is the second book in the Girls of Paper and Fire series, and I give this one 4 out of 5 stars. So I'm not going to go into what this one is about, but it does take off right, it does start off right where the first book stops. So that was really nice. There is a lot of traveling and there's a lot of fighting in this novel. It's not as violent as the first one, but there is still some violence. There's actually a trigger warning in the beginning of the book, which is nice. I love seeing that. The first book I gave 4 stars. This one I also gave 4 stars. So the first book follows a girl named Lee who is essentially kidnapped from her town, taken to be a paper girl. So a paper girl is basically the king's concubine. So in this world, there are 3 different castes. We have the paper caste, who are fully human. We have the steel caste, who are half human, half demon. And then we have the moon caste, which are fully demon. And in this world, demons are animal. they take the shape of animal form. So the king is mooncast, and he's a bull. And he just steals girls from their villages and makes them his concubine. He's ruthless, he's not a good person, and everyone is kind of scared of him. He's kind of just, he's a tyrant, really. And Lee's mother was kidnapped 7 years prior to her being kidnapped, and no one has ever heard from her ever again. So it's her goal in the first novel to figure out what happened to her mom and try to avoid the king at all costs. Unfortunately, that's not possible, but yeah, I really enjoyed the first one. I enjoyed the second one probably a little less than the first one, but I still enjoyed it, and I really want to see like where the story ends. Like, I want to see what happens. I don't know how we're gonna go from like the end of this to the finale, but I am curious to see like what happens here. And then I picked up When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. If you guys don't know already, I love Alyssa Cole. I will read anything that she writes, and this was no exception. So this is her first thriller novel. It is about a predominantly black neighborhood in Brooklyn being gentrified, and people start to go missing. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. Loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was done really well. It is a slow burn thriller. Like, it's not anything like gripping where you're just like flipping through the pages quickly, like trying to find out what's happening. Like, it does take its time getting to the point, but I didn't mind that at all. There's a little bit of a romance in here, which really wasn't necessary, but I didn't mind it. And I just thought it was really good. I think the commentary in here was really good. I learned a lot. I tabbed out some things so that I could go back and like Google some things on my own afterwards, because I didn't know half of the things in here that she talked about that were true. And while like gentrification is alive and well in this country, and it displaces people and takes people out of their jobs and their homes all of the time, it happens around us all of the time. The way that she did it in here was a little outlandish, I will say that, but I didn't care. I mean, I'm a little biased. Alyssa Cole, like I said, is one of my favorite authors, and so I just love her writing and anything that she writes. So 5 out of 5 stars for this one. I really, really liked it. And then I picked up A Wolf for a Spell by Kara Sutton. This is a middle grade fantasy novel. It is about Baba Yaga and a wolf cub who have to team up together to defeat a common enemy. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I really did enjoy it. It was super quick and cute. It's illustrated, which was really cute to see that. I picked this one up both for TBR Pursuit and for Polarathon, and I'm really glad I did. It was really good. It was a really good book overall. I liked all of the characters. I liked all of the trouble that they got into. And yeah, I just liked it. After that, I listened to the audiobook of You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. I really did enjoy this book a lot. It was super quick paced, cute. This follows our main character Lizzie, who has got accepted to the college of her dreams but is a little short on money, so she decides to run for homecoming queen, because at her school homecoming queen is like this big deal, and there's a $10,000 scholarship to be won, and if she wins that scholarship she'll be able to go to Pennington, I think. Pennington. She'll be able to go to Pennington, which is where she wants to go to school. She lives with her grandparents and her brother. Her brother is sick. He has sickle cell disease. Her mother passed away from sickle cell disease. So she's trying to win the money so that she doesn't have to tell her grandparents, because she knows if she does tell her grandparents that they will do anything to get the money, including selling their house. So she says, okay, I'm gonna run for homecoming queen, and her friends jump in and they're like, okay, we're gonna like make you this whole new person, and we're gonna do everything we can to like get you this money, and like all of this stuff happens. Well, in comes this girl named Amanda, or Mac as they call her, and Lizzie and Mac have like an instant connection and flirtation, and like a little romance ensues, and it was just, I just liked it a lot. It was really, really cute. And yeah, I'll definitely be picking up more of Leah's books in the future because I really liked it. And then the final book that I picked up for the month of February was Throne of Glass by Sarah Demas. This is a reread for me. I tabbed it up this time and I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars, although it's just a 4 star. So every other time that I've read this, I gave it a 4 stars. This time it barely scraped by as a 4 star. I didn't enjoy this reread of it that much. I felt like not a lot happened, like it was kind of slow, and I really didn't like Dorian, but I don't think I liked Dorian in the first time I read it either. So you know, I've read the first 3 or 4 books, I can't remember, so I can't wait until I get further into the series to the new stuff and see how I feel about it, because while I still enjoyed it, like the last 150 pages of this were action-packed and I really liked it, getting up to that point it was it drug on for me a little bit. I don't know if that's because I've reread it so many times or if it's just I've read better fantasy since reading this. I don't know. So those are all of the things that I read in the month of February. I had a great reading month. Some things I loved, some things I didn't love. If you guys have watched this and enjoyed it, leave me some kind of emoji down below. You can either leave a smiley face or maybe like a balloon or a party hat, because February is my birthday month. So if you want to do that, that'd be great. If you've read any of these or you want to discuss them down in the comments, let me know. I love chatting with you guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Goodreads, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.